Greetings YouTube and welcome back to another video. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different to the norm. Today I will be telling you about my video game history, how I got into video games and where it all began to present. So anyway, we shall start with, well, I will start when I first played the NES, or well, the NES as we call it over here. So yeah, the NES was the very first console that I ever played on, but it wasn't my console because that belonged to my brother. But before he had one of our neighbors had it, so they gave us the NES for like for pittance, and they gave us quite a few random games. And I mean, I was too young to like remember most of the games that were for it because at that point I was 3 years old. So yeah, so it'd be like 1997, 98, that sort of era. I mean, our family couldn't afford the PlayStation or the latest game consoles that were out at that time. So we had like the NES, and some of the games that I can remember from what I can see, and I won't play some of those until much later on through emulation. But the first video game that I can remember playing was the original Super Mario Brothers on, of course, the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt cartridge. Yeah, they were the first two games I ever played. But there were some other games that I can remember watching my brother, even my mum play as well. In fact, my mum played a few video games before me and my brothers were born, because she had an Atari 2600, and I think she said she had an I'm pretty sure she said she had an Amstrad CPC 464. But I mean, she definitely told me about the Atari. I think she might have had an Amstrad, though I can't remember. But getting back on track, so we had the NES. So like I say, Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt were the very first video games that I ever played. But yeah, I remember watching my brother and my mum play some of the other games like The Legend of Zelda, Castlevania, Mega Man. I think it was Mega Man 3, but and a few of the Capcom other Capcom games, particularly the Disney ones like DuckTales and Chip and Dale. Um, but yeah, it wasn't until later on, yeah, because my brother obviously he's near enough 2 years older than me. He has better memory of the NES than I do. He talked about some of the other titles that they had. They had Blaster Master, Batman, Maniac Mansion. Yeah, Maniac Mansion's an absolute fantastic game. So obviously, I didn't play any of most of those until I discovered emulation in the mid 2000s. But we will get to that at some point. So yeah. So after the NES, I would get my first video game console, which was the Sega Mega Drive. Yeah, the Model 1 Mega Drive. The one with the headphone jack and everything. But as I say, again, like with the NES, it originally belonged to a neighbor, so they gave us a couple of games for it. Back when you could get like games for those systems for like for £5 or less. So yeah, so of course some of the earliest titles that I can remember was Sonic the Hedgehog. Obviously, I mean who didn't have a Mega Drive without Sonic? Some of the other games were like Quack Shot starring Donald Duck, um, Streets of Rage, um, Revenge of Shinobi, some random titles like that. But yeah, I won't discover more about the Mega Drive until emulation, just like with the NES. But yeah, I had a lot of fondness with the Mega Drive, and yeah, and for that reason, my favorite 16-bit system, though, to be fair, the Super Nintendo is up there as well, and a lot of people would argue the SNES is better. But I didn't have a Super Nintendo back then, so that was that. So the Mega Drive, I got mine in 1998, so I was 4 then. And yeah, that was really it. And then we then go into the year of 1999, which I believe it was 99. I was 5 years old. So, of course, I was used to seeing fancy graphics and all that lot in the arcades. And yeah, at that point, I had never seen a PlayStation 1 at that point. So, well, it was the PlayStation then. The PS1 didn't even go until 2000, which is like the slim one. But yeah, we're about the original fat grey PS1. So yeah, so we didn't get a PlayStation 1 until yeah, I believe it was 1999. I'll say 99 though. I mean, it could possibly be 98, but for now I'll say 99. Like I say, some of my history and some of my details might be a little bit off, but obviously it's hard to remember everything, but you can sort of try and make guess of when you had it. So PlayStation One though, that console when I first saw it, I'm like, yeah, it's just a grey box. What can it do? I was like, then when I saw the graphics, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, yeah, the graphics nowadays are extremely blocky, but I didn't think you would see graphics like that at home. I mean, I was used to seeing them in the arcade. Those like some of the racing games in there, Time Crisis, and well, quite a few of them would be released on the PlayStation. So that's a yeah. So the first two games, I think the first two games that I can remember playing on the PlayStation, I've talked about this on the previous vlog quite a while ago. That the PlayStation One game that I can remember playing, though it could be the other, but I'm pretty certain. The more I thought about it, the first PlayStation One game that I ever played was Tomb Raider, the first Tomb Raider from 1996. But yeah, I was 5 years old, and then I know I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Yeah, especially I was not used to seeing girls in like I was not used to seeing games in an open world aspect. I was too used to like your more linear like 2D platformers or games that were like open ended like Zelda, but you used to seeing games like that in a top down from a top down perspective. But to see like full like 3D environments was something special. And then yeah, the music on it, my jaw dropped to the floor. I was not expecting to hear like orchestral sort of style of music. Yeah, courtesy of Nathan McCree. And yeah, but I mean, Tomb Raider is probably one of my absolute favorite series of games, and because of because of games like that, the PS1 would eventually become my all-time favorite console, and that I still agree. I still think it's the greatest game system ever created. Nothing in my mind will ever come close to beating the PlayStation. I mean, a few haven't come far behind, like the PlayStation 2, the Mega Drive, and the Super Nintendo when I started getting into the collecting aspect. But yeah, but with the PS1, I was like, it was just absolutely incredible. And that was when I was starting to get more and more into gaming as a whole. And now that even at that age, I thought gaming was just a gimmick to me. I didn't think I'd end up being as interested in it as I am today. So that's that. And then we have some of the other race. We play quite a few racing games on there. The first racing game that I can remember was Ridge Racer. Yeah, the original Ridge Racer. yeah, it may look extremely blocky, and the controls nowadays may take a while, but I know as a kid I couldn't believe that I got to see the arcade at, at home as well. And yeah, the music on that game, even today, is still some of the best I've ever heard. And well, and then obviously games like that would get me into electronic music. But there was one game that got me interested in electronic music even more than Ridge Racer, although I do prefer Ridge Racer as a series. But the game that turned the game where my jaw pretty much snapped like was Wipeout. I mean, Wipeout had already been a few years old at that point, but the graphics on that was something else. The music, like, I was just like blown away. Even the music still sounds futuristic for a game from 1995. Yeah, but I remember playing that game all the time as a kid, but obviously I was never any good at it because yeah, they expect like some of the later courses expect like 100% perfection. Yeah, you have to have you have to have godlike reflexes going around some of the courses, but yeah, beautiful game. Gameplay may be a bit clunky nowadays, but at least the Wipeout series did get slightly better. It would have been slightly better. It got even better with its sequel, which is 2097, which I played that quite a bit as well. But then the game series that at that point for me had changed everything. Had made me become a gamer that I am nowadays was Crash Bandicoot. When I was a kid, the Crash Bandicoot titles they were easily my favorite games to play, and I still have a lot of fond memories. And for years, I thought the Crash Bandicoot games were the best video games ever made. I mean, I now know that they're not, but I still have a lot of fondness for them, particularly Crash 2. The Crash Bandicoot 3 for the longest time was actually my favorite video game of all time. But the more I played it over the years, I just didn't have that same enjoyment like I did back when I first played Crash 3. I mean, I still love the game and I always will, but I don't know, things change. And then the PlayStation 1 introduced me to the first RPG that I ever played, and to this day, no RPG comes close to beating it. I mean, some people may prefer the others in this particular series. You know what I'm talking about. You know the game. This was a game changer when it was released in 1997, and that is Final Fantasy VII. That game, I was not expecting any. I mean, when I first played the game when I was like 5, I mean, I ended up losing that copy and had to rebuy the game again like a decade ago. But yeah, when I was like 5 or 6 years old when I first played, I was like, what on earth is this? I was not used to playing a game like it. Yeah. And obviously the game I didn't understand the story or the plot of it, but I just absolutely loved it. Though of course I understand the story now because I've played through it a few times over the years. But the thing that the thing that made my jaw drop was the final fight against Sephiroth, of course. Well, safer Sephiroth, as he's the final boss. The music on One Winged Angel, and if you thought the music on Wipeout and Tomb Raider blew me away, this I will say this made the music in those games look like child play. And then when I heard the fucking opera in it, I was like, holy shit. Well, I didn't say those words as a 5 year old. I was like, what? I mean, I was not expecting like opera in a video game, if I can even call it opera or whatever. I mean, I mean, music like that. I was like, they got whole orchestra doing the music though, thanks to Umamatsu. And to this day, that is my all-time favorite piece of video game music, bar none. I mean, and as a result, Final Fantasy VII, I think, in my mind, is the greatest video game soundtrack ever created. I've listened to plenty of game soundtracks throughout my time, but Final Fantasy VII, I don't know, it set the bar that high that I don't know, no other game, heck, even some of the other Final Fantasy games couldn't replicate. The soundtrack on Final Fantasy VIII and 9 is absolutely superb, but I don't know, Final Fantasy VII, I don't know, Umamatsu had some big balls, and I don't mean like that, but what I'm saying is he had big balls to make music like just like that. And of course, throughout the years, I've played many other PS1 games and other great series. We've had like well, Spyro the Dragon, of course. The first Spyro, particularly, that's my favorite in that franchise. Then we have other great platformers. Ape Escape, which is probably my second favorite platformer on the PS1. My favorite used to be Crash 3. It's Crash 2. Try to think of other platformers. Rayman, superb game, but the absolute insane difficulty took me over a decade to complete. Fucking hell, that game. Probably one of the hardest games, if not the hardest game I've ever completed. And obviously it makes some of the other games, even some of the really hard games, even like on the NES or Mega Drive, look like a walk in the park. There was Gex, Enter the Gecko. I don't have that game anymore, but I do remember some of the quotes in that because here in the UK, Leslie Phillips, yeah, may he rest in peace. Yeah, he did the voice for Gex, and of course, yeah, it's the same. It's the same Leslie Phillips that was in the Carry On films, and yeah, some interesting quotes in that game though. Listening to some of them back, yeah, it's aged like milk, but it was at a time when those pop culture references were relevant, and that was that. What other platformers did I play? Or I've played over the years. Well, I've talked about not Mario. Mario didn't even come on the PlayStation One. I mean, if he did, that'd be fantastic. But nah, I would say Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Ape Escape, Gex. Oh yeah, so like the Disney ones, like Toy Story 2. I still have that game, even though it's not in the best condition. It's missing the instruction manual and front cover, but the game still works fine. I remember, and I'm pretty sure this was one of the few PS1 games that my parents bought for us on the day of release, or at least the week it came out. Yeah, it came out over here in the UK in 2000. So that game. I mean, I know on the surface it may look like a typical generic 3D platformer, but I don't know. There's a bit more to it than meets the eye. But yeah, Disney did some absolutely stellar platformers on the PS1 for the most part. Um, Hercules, great game, quite tricky in some parts. Do I remember the final fight against Hades was a piece of piss. Mickey's Wild Adventure, which is Mickey Mania. Yeah, they just changed it to Wild Adventure for the PlayStation 1. A game that I've completed hundreds of times over the years. I mean, yeah, the game itself can be stupidly hard, but I don't know. I just played it over and over again until I got somewhat decent at it. Um, what other ones? I mean, the Tarzan game was all right, just wasn't as good as Mickey's Wild Adventure or Hercules. Then, of course, there was the Bugs Life game, which I absolutely loved it as a kid, but I went back to it quite a couple of years ago, and My opinion on it has changed for the worse. Yeah, I don't know. I played it. I honestly I wanted to throw up with the twitchiest for camera angles. I mean, I don't mind having. I don't mind camera angles being complicated, but one thing I cannot stand is if the camera angle is twitching more than the crack addict's nose. Yeah, it was like camera bloody whiplash, and then trying to make simple jumps is nigh on impossible because the camera decides to go into a right fit. I'm like, no, thank you. Yeah, the controls. I mean, the PS1. Yeah, obviously, I know a lot of the controls and most of the games are a bit clunky, but I don't know Bugs Life. I mean, they're beyond, they're beyond clunky as hell. Croc, Legend of the Gobbos, and Croc 2. And I'll tell you one thing, those games may look cute and cuddly, but my god, they are some of the most aggravating games I've ever played in my entire life. They are so damn hard. Yeah, he looks all cute on surface. I mean, if Rayman's the hardest 2D platformer or one of the hardest 2D platforms on the PS1, Croc is the hardest 3D ones. And yeah, I actually played Croc 2 first before Legend of Gobbos. And I don't know, Croc 1 was hard, like stupidly hard. And then Croc 2 was 10 times as difficult. And I couldn't even get off, honestly, I couldn't even get off the first island. I mean, I've completed a few tricky games throughout my time, but Croc is not one of those. And I don't know. I wanted to like those games, but the difficulty just put me off them. So that's that. And then, but of course, the PS1 introduced me to probably the game that I've spent the most time on as a kid. I constantly played it with my brother, friends, family, and I still play on it a lot today, and that is, of course, Tekken 3. Best fighting game ever made, in my opinion. I do like the other Tekkens, well, Tekken 1's a bit rough, let's be honest with you. 2 is fantastic, but 3 was just something else, and I've played other fighting games on the PS1, like Street Fighter EX plus Alpha. What other fighting games did we have? Soul Blade, yeah. And I know Soul Blade, that game was difficult, but I quite liked it. But I actually sold that game on because I just wasn't playing as much as I used to. What other fighting games were there? Battle Arena to Shinden, yeah, same thing really with Soul Blade. But yeah, Tekken for me was where it was at. And of course the Mortal Kombat games, Mortal Kombat 4 and the trilogy. Yeah. And then of course I discovered the horror games like Resident Evil, which I one of my favourite game series ever, with my favourite being Resident Evil 2. Though I do have a lot of fun memories with the first one. Though to be fair, if you want to play Resident Evil, I suggest playing the 2002 remake on the GameCube, which is so much better. But I remember the first time playing Resident Evil, yeah, them dogs like jumping out the window. My God, did it give me the biggest fright! And yeah, and that surprised me. Then, of course, Silent Hill, to this day, my favorite horror game. And of course, I mean, people talk about how good Silent Hill 2 and 3 are. I love them, but I don't know, something about the original Silent Hill. Yeah, walking in the fog and everything. Even now as a kid, I don't just send the chills down my spine. And it gave me nightmares. It genuinely did. I know I played the game when I was like 6 years old. I mean, what the bloody hell's it doing? But because we had the PlayStation One chipped, yeah, we had like all random games. Some of those games are worth like quite a few bob. Some are probably upwards of £100 and more. And yeah, I remember playing. what one RPG that me and my brother borrowed off, I think it was one of his mates or a neighbor, a game called The Legend of Dragoon, which is a JRPG. I don't know if I'd have bought the game back then, I probably would have. But like I said, I'm not the biggest RPG fan, but aside from Final Fantasy VII and the Legend of Dragoon, I was like, well, that was it. That was about it for me. Yeah, that game's like worth over 100 quid on obviously PAL. It's actually cheaper to buy the NTSC, but me, I prefer. I grew up with 50 hertz PAL, and that's the way I intend to be. Though of course I've tried to import stuff, but we'll get into that a bit later, shall we? But the PS1, yeah, it gave me, in my opinion, my all time favorite video game. And I don't know, this game throughout the years, I've always loved it as a kid, but I don't know, I've never known a game to give me as much joy, as much challenge, frustration. This game to me gave this game to me was just everything that I wanted in a video game. And of course, I was talking about Tomb Raider, but yeah, my favorite video game of all time is its sequel, Tomb Raider 2. And I'll tell you what, yeah, I know it does divert away a bit from the first Tomb Raider because majority of the levels you're not in tombs or anything like that. You're like traveling through Venice on a you drive through yeah, go through Venice on your speedboat and drive through like the gondolas and shooting up the bad guys. But Tomb Raider 2, yeah, yeah, it made me realize that with video games you can't just stand around for too long. You gotta keep moving, and of course you gotta keep moving, and you have to be a bit skillful. Well, you have to be skillful in order to beat the game because the later stages expect you to like master the controls, which I do enjoy. But yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, there are some questionable levels, like the Opera House one. Yeah, it's an infamous level, which, I mean, not many people are particularly fond of it. I hated that stage when I was a kid, but I don't know, I've grown to like it a bit more over the years. So you have like the Opera House one, yeah, which the last level in Venice. Then of course you go into like an underwater like rig, which those levels are considerably easier than the Opera House, but I don't know. What one complaint that I do hear people say about Tomb Raider 2 is that there's like at least 75% of like humans that you have to kill, rather than like your T Rexes and all that lot. I mean, you see two T Rexes in the first level of Tomb Raider 2, if you know what that secret is, and then of course you after you do the underwater like rig level, which is offshore rig and diving area, then of course you go under the water into like a sunken ship. And the first level I hate it because they dump you straight into the sea, and then you have to do a 180-degree turn because if you don't move quick enough, you'll just get eaten by two sharks. But the best way to do that level from uh, from history is const. If you got like the harpoons, which are fucking useless, they miss most of the time. What you do is kill one of the sharks, but don't bother trying killing the other one because if you try and do that, the other shark will be more problematic, and then it'll end up killing you before you have a chance. And of course, you have to be careful because obviously Lara Croft starts to run out of air underwater. And then of course, what once you get past that bit, the level does improve. There's like time switches, so where there's like flames coming out. I mean, How I don't know because it's underwater. But yeah, you're on an abandoned ship, and then what? Once you get past those time switches where the flames, you can turn the flames off, but they will get you if you're not quick enough. Or sometimes you can just cheese it if you jump at the right angle. You can actually do it without getting burnt, but it's too risky. So I'd rather do the puzzle though. As long as the backtracking is on that level, it leads you up into the next level, which is the Wreck de Maria de Rio, which is absolutely fantastic. There's plenty of backtracking and some interesting like puzzles you have to solve, like pull like certain boxes to get up onto other parts of the stage. And yeah, it's a massive level, but it's full of like the usual traps that Tomb Raider has, and that's that. And then we have there's the living quarters level, which is super easy, and you can actually cheese that level where you can skip certain rooms, and though there's one bit where you do have to where you have to fill up a certain part with water, otherwise you can't make it to the end of the level, or so you think. Because there's one trick you can do. It's a little bit. It's I wouldn't necessarily say it's tricky, but it's not particularly easy either. You have to like jump at like a very specific angle and grab. If you're slightly off, you won't get it. And then of course there's the deck level, which I like that level except for the guys with the flamethrowers because they not only do they burn you, but they've got an extremely long range, and that's that. But then Tomb Raider 2, after that, the game really shines. And probably now we've got my favourite level, which is Tibetan Foothills, which is, of course, the level where you get to drive the skidoo, which is fun. Except if you get an angle wrong, for whatever reason, if Lara Croft crashes at speed, it'll just explode. Yet the whole skidoo will explode, and so will she. She'll just go into like 1,000 bits. But I do enjoy it. But you can actually beat the level without the skidoo. Believe it or not, you can actually do it without. But it's actually a bit more. It's a lot more riskier, but it provides a different challenge. And of course, these levels is where they start feeling more like a Tomb Raider game than the others. But I don't know. I just loved exploring like Venice and the record of Maria de Ria. But of course, next level after that is what is it? Oh, the next level is the Barkhan Monastery, which that level is it's a great level, but there's one absolutely obnoxious one obnoxious trap. And the good thing about Tomb Raider 2 is you can save the game at any point and then just load up. But if you save at a bad spot, you can like restart. You have to restart the level. But that's why I like Tomb Raider 2 because you can save at any point. Whereas in the first Tomb Raider, you have to use like these save crystals, which I mean they're all right, but I don't know, the fact that you can get to save at any point just makes the game a bit more interesting. But then there's like this obnoxious trap where there's like a water bit, and you're like, yeah, and you sort of like get sucked under, but you have to jump at a certain angle so you don't get sucked under the water. And if you get sucked under, you cannot get back out. You cannot. You could try all you might, but you will just run out of air and perish. Yeah, but it's like a massive like a temple as well. And then the level to make the level depending on what happens can either be a bit easier or ridiculously hard. So what you have to do is there are monks in the level. Do not kill one of them. Do not, because if you kill one of the monks, every single monk in the rest of that level will target you, and you will make the level an absolute bitch. So don't do that. So it means you have to use most of your ammo, unless you use the weapons cheat, which I use the weapons cheat because there are certain areas where enemy weapon and enemy ammo and stuff like that is a bit scarce. So don't kill the monks, because what they could do, they can help you. You see, because if there's enemies that are trying to attack you, sometimes what I like to do is sometimes if you can't if you're having trouble taking on a certain enemy, let the monks take him out for you. Because I'll tell you what, I gotta say that they give how can I put it? Try to think. Basically, just give them more credit than they deserve. They really do, because like some gun enemies will absolutely destroy you, and that's really it. But I mean, sometimes the enemies will kill at least one or two of the monks. But as long as you don't hit them with a bullet, the monks won't bother you. Let them do their own thing. So yeah, and then after that is the next level, which is the Catacombs of Italian. And I'll tell you what, if you like the levels in Tomb Raider 1, this level will instantly remind you of it. Particularly like the first level, like the caves, where it's all snowy and everything. And of course you get attacked by like the snow lions or anything, who are they're like soup. They're quite aggressive as well. And then it's full of like boulder traps, like, well, not boulder traps, they're like snowballs, which of course depend. Yeah, no matter what size they are, they'll just crush Lara Croft to death. And then of course it leads you into the Ice Palace, which is a very short level where you find some hench boss who looks a bit like the Birdman of Alcatraz. But it's just a really fun. I mean, the levels are pretty fun. The boss is a piece of piss though. If you have your M16 like long range machine gun or the grenade launcher, you make short work of it. And then we're now into like the last couple of levels where you have the Temple of Jeanne, which is of course it's the gauntlet level. Yeah, this level is Tomb Raider in a nutshell. Obnoxious traps, difficult enemies, interesting puzzles. It has everything for you, and the level itself is an extremely challenging one. It will put you through your paces, but it's a really enjoyable challenge, and it would be my favorite level in Tomb Raider 2. I mean, my favorite level is Tibetan Foothills, but Temple of Jeanne would have been my favorite level if it wasn't for the massive fuck off spiders. I mean, I don't mind spiders, but the spiders were like, I don't know, they were almost human size. They were almost the size of Lara Croft. And the best way to deal with them is the shotgun. I know, and they appear in like a really like dark cave, so you gotta be careful because of course the game gives you flare so you can see a bit better in the dark. But sometimes these giant fucking spiders come out of nowhere. Oh, no, just no. And the noise they make when you kill them is even worse. I don't know. They make some weird noise. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's probably the worst impression of it, but oh well. But yeah, you're right near the end of the game, so no. But yeah, it's probably one of the most difficult level in the game. But obviously, the next one, which is the floating island, probably the most challenging level of all, in my honest mind. And when I first played it as a kid, I could not for the life of me figure out how to beat it. I mean, I completed Tomb Raider 1, though it took me a while back then. But yeah, I didn't even know how to beat the floating islands. I mean, I've done it several times since then. But yeah, I just absolutely love it. Yeah, the level, I say it's a weird level. There's some like weird random shit like floating enemies in the sky who come at you with swords. Then of course you have um like emperor things, whatever, with like the spears. They come like stabbing at you. They can actually kill you in one hit if you're not careful. So of course the best weapon to deal with them is the M16 like long range machine gun, which is just fantastic. Then of course the Dragon Slayer, which you would think was the final level. It's not, but it might as well because you end up taking on fighting this massive dragon, who of course spits fire and flames at you. Well, fire and flames, it's the same fucking thing. Yeah, ignore me. But yeah, he starts spitting flames at you, and you can get burned. But there is a way you can do it and not get burned. You have to stand. I know you have to stand at a specific angle on on one of the pillows. And what you could do is like blast the fucker with the grenade launcher. It takes about 10 hits with it. If you could do it right, you won't get burnt, and then once you've done it, you can escape. But there's one more level where, of course, Lara Croft's at home, and then because she's got the dagger of Jeanne, which is like the thing that Lara Croft must collect in Tomb Raider 2. Yeah, the goons realize this, and then they come raiding Lara Croft's home. So you have to go outside the house and then back in to fend off a load of enemies. Yeah, you have to kill them with a shotgun, and then after that, there's some guy with there's like some massive hench dude with like a massive gun. After you've killed everyone, and he takes like a massive chunk of your health. And like I failed that bit many times because I've run out of health packs. But they give you just enough so you can finish the game without any problem, and voila. I mean, I could talk about Tomb Raider 2 all day. It's my favorite video game of all time. And I do like the others. Tomb Raider 3, I have a love-hate relationship for that one. It's mostly down to its unfair difficulty. I mean, Tomb Raider 1 and 2, they're challenging, a little bit irritating at times, but so much fun. 3 wasn't as fun, and that's that. But yeah, I've had enough about talking about the PlayStation 1. So now, PlayStation. Actually, no. Not the PlayStation 2. Not just yet. Because the the year we go back to the year of 2001. So that's it. So when I was a kid, I remember going into the game shop and seeing the Sega Dreamcast. I mean, I tried my best to save up as many pennies to get it. Because I remember seeing. I mean, I didn't really take much notice of video games much at that time. I only really knew like the NES, Mega Drive, and PS1, and a Game Boy that my brother had. But that will come relevant in just a second because I was saving up my money to afford the Dreamcast. 2001, the price of the Dreamcast dipped quite a bit. But no matter how much money I started scraping up, and I had just turned 7 years old that year, no matter how much money I scraped up, even with some assistance from family members, it just wasn't enough. So what I decided to do was, well, my brother's got a Game Boy Color, so I'll get a Game Boy Color myself, and that's exactly what I did. I remember it came with I mean, his was the clear, see-through purple-looking Game Boy Color. The one I bought was the standard, the purple one, which I liked. And I got one of the Pokemon games where I think it was Pokemon Red. It wasn't Pokemon Blue because my brother already had that. So, yeah, Pokemon Red it was I got. And what other games did I get with it? I think it might be one of the other Pokemon games, like I think it was Pokemon Silver. I cannot remember, but I do remember getting the Pokemon Red. Uh, yeah, that's it, Pokemon Red. But I mean, I already had my brother already had a few other like random Game Boy games like Tetris. Of course, you can't have a Game Boy without Tetris, and the Super Mario Land titles, and a bunch more others which I cannot for the life of me remember. Uh, But that's it. That's why I bought the Game Boy. If I just had probably a few pound more, I would have afforded to get a Sega Dreamcast. Though I would get one when I started collecting. So that's that. So yeah, we were stuck with the plate. So we were stuck with the Game Boy and that. And then of course, then we're going into 2003 was when I would get my next game console, as did my brother, and that was the Game Boy Advance. So yeah, we got that in. Yeah, I've got that as a Christmas present in 2003. And the game that we, one of the two games that I got with it, well, yeah, the two games that I got, yeah, and those games had come out that year. In fact, one of them had only come out just like a week or a few weeks prior to Christmas. And that game was Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which, I mean, great little, fun little RPG like Mario and Luigi. And yeah, I played that game, but it took me a long time to beat the final boss. And then the other game that we got was Pokemon. Well, the other game that I got was Pokemon Sapphire, which I mean, that game was just absolutely fantastic. And I think we had Pokemon Ruby as well. Pretty sure we did. But yeah, I was happy with those. And then I wouldn't get my next console until 2005. So of course, I mean, my brother in I think it was 2004. Yeah, would have been 2004. He gets a PS2 Slim and a bunch of games with that with his. I mean, I won't get my PlayStation 2 until 2006 because in 2005 the next console that I would get was the original Xbox, and I mean this thing was a beast. Absolutely. Yeah, I never known a game system so heavy in my entire life. Yeah, it weighed like a ton, but but I remember seeing the graphics on that was just absolutely outstanding. And yeah, me and my brother used to play Halo 2 on it a lot. I mean, we did play the first Halo, but we much preferred the second one, and it's probably the best game for that system, in all honesty. But but it wasn't my first experience with the Xbox because a mate of mine had one. The first game that I can remember that I played on it was Jet Set Radio Future, and I thought this is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, I did get that game with my Xbox, funnily enough, and I just thought it was incredible. It was probably my second favorite game other than Halo 2. I played it that much. Going around graffitiing. I thought the graphics on that was stunning, still are. And of course, it introduced me to all different kinds of first-person shooters. So I went through a bit of a phase of FPSs. Yeah, there were plenty of great games on it. Like I remember, yeah, playing like Medal of Honor Frontline. I would get that game with my PS2 as well. But yeah, Medal of Honor Frontline, Rising Sun, European Assault. What other ones were the Tom Clancy ones were pretty good. I particularly enjoyed Chaos Theory back then. Though, to be honest with you, um, I have more fond memories playing those sorts of games than I did with some of the other titles that did come up for like the Xbox. And I think I had more fun with first person shooters back then than I do now. But I mean, there's the odd few that still pique my interest. So that's that. No, well, not that's that. We had had a bunch of games for the Xbox. Like I had a few. I had FIFA 2003 on there, which I mean, it doesn't play too bad though. If you want to play those games, it's better on the PS2. There was Dead or Alive 3. I mean, oh yeah, and the Project Gotham Racing series. But that was it for the Xbox for me. I mean, I loved the Xbox. Then I got the PlayStation 2 in 2006, which was a silver slim one, which of course over time the laser went on that. So I bought a fat PS2, laser went on that. Bought another fat PS2, disc tray wouldn't open, so I had to buy another PS2. I mean, I've gone through them because of problems out of my control. And when I got the PS2, graphically it didn't look as nice as the Xbox, but I gotta be honest with you, I prefer the games on the PS2 for the most part. Though first person shooters and the racing games, I thought were better on the Xbox. Jesus fucking Christ, I forgot one then. I forgot two. They're from the same series of games. Need for Speed Underground 2 and Most Wanted. Yeah, I played them on the Xbox. Then of course you had the PlayStation 2, which I mean I absolutely love that console. I'll probably not as much as I do. Not probably not as much now. Oh yeah, I still love it, but not on the same level like I did back when I was a kid and going on going into a teenager. So of course, the PlayStation 2 introduced me to my favorite Grand Theft Auto game, which is Vice City. And to be fair, as much as I love San Andreas and GTA 3, none of them in my mind just hold a candle to Vice City. Though a lot of people will disagree and say that San Andreas is better, which fair dues. But I'll tell you what, yeah, the game that I got my PlayStation 2 was one of the games my brother got with his. And that was Crash Bandicoot the Wrath of Cortex. I mean you know me by now. I love the Crash games on the PlayStation 1. I loved them as a kid. So when I got Wrath of Cortex, I remember playing it and felt a bit underwhelmed. I mean, I got to be honest, even though it was underwhelming, I still enjoyed it. Though nowadays I just find it mediocre at best. But I can get why people still enjoy Wrath of Cortex. Not for me. Not for me now, I'm afraid to say. But yeah, but I know there were like games like Gran Turismo 3, Gran Turismo 4, Medal of Honor Frontline, yeah. Simpsons Hit and Run, of course. I got that game with my PS2. But yeah. And the first fighting game that I ever got for my PlayStation 2 was Capcom vs SNK 2. I've still got that game. I love it, even though the manual is missing. Yeah. What a game that was and still is. I mean, I would like to get the other Tekken. I would like to get like Tekken 5 and Tag Tournament. But yeah, the first three games that I bought for my PlayStation 2 with my money, I mean, I was 12 in 2006. So yeah, the first game that I remember picking up, and this game has blown me away ever since, was Devil May Cry. Still got that one. The first Devil May Cry, though I mean I had two and three though. I only really liked the first one more than the others. Still come back to that game every so on. Absolutely superb game. The other game was Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. I mean that was like obviously those games were pre-owned. I never played the Metal Gear Solid game at that point until MGS2. Because of that, I wanted to go and play the original, which is my favorite. I know Metal Gear Solid 2 gets a lot of flack because of the character Raiden, but honestly, it didn't bother me too much. But I think I have a lot more patience for it than others. And the third game that I got with it, I'm trying to remember what was the third game I got for it? Pretty sure it was one of the Resident Evils. It was either Resident Evil 4 or Code Veronica X. It was one of those two. I think it was Code Veronica X, but I can't remember. But yeah, the PlayStation 2 introduced me to some interesting game series like Ratchet and Clank. I mean, I played Time Splitters 2 originally on Xbox, but the first Time Splitters didn't come out for it, so I bought that game for it. Then there was like the Tony Hawk games, like Pro Skater 3 and 4, Underground 2, American Wasteland, Project 8. Just tons. Of course, there was Jack and Daxter, the precursor legacy. You know what? Actually, it wasn't Resident Evil Code Veronica X wasn't the first Resident Evil, wasn't the third game I got. It would have been Jack and Daxter. Would have been Jack and Daxter, the precursor legacy. That game is still fantastic. Jack 2 can go fuck itself. Jack 3 can also go fuck itself. And I gotta be honest with you, I didn't really like Jack 2 or 3 because I don't know, it just diverted away from what made Jack and Daxter great. And of course, Ratchet and Clank, yeah, they were great games. Though I think my favorite was the first one, though. Ratchet 3 was absolutely fantastic as well. Well, that was really it for the PlayStation 2. I can't really talk much about it. I mean, I'm very fond of it, but I just don't like it as much as I once did. I don't know. Your feelings towards games do chop and change throughout time. So that's that. So after the PlayStation 2, well, actually this was when I was starting. This is where my when I started getting into emulation. I mean, I dabbled about with emulation in like the mid 2000s, where I was like downloading like ROMs for like the NES, SNES, Mega Drive, and then like others like Sega systems like the Master System and the Saturn. And then, but this was when YouTube really kicked in for me, and then I started like getting into emulators for other systems that I never owned, and a few of them I would own when my gaming collection habit started. Yeah, so I downloaded like ROMs for like the ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, Amstrad, Amiga, ST. Yeah, you name it. And yeah, and I thought, you know what? Seeing stuff like that, I'm gonna buy games. I'm gonna start collecting. Yeah. So then because some of the stuff on eBay is still fairly cheap. Yeah, I bought like Super Nintendo. I bought a Super Famicom. Yeah, I tried doing the Japanese import thing. Wasn't for me, so I just mostly so went back to PAL. Then there's like Nintendo 64 because I never had one as a kid. Brief I played on I briefly played on an N64 with a few friends. I mean, I was introduced like the usual titles like your Mario 64s, Mario Kart 64, Ocarina of Time, Paper Mario, Wave Race 64, and GoldenEye 007. And of course, I would own most of these when I did buy an N64. Back when you could get them for cheap, I mean, I bought an N64, got bored of it, sold it, then I bought another one, and yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I loved the Nintendo 64, but I preferred it when I didn't own it, as in, like, I had more fun with it playing on my mate's N64 because when they had the Nintendo 64, I mean, obviously me and my brother were on the PlayStation 1 at that point. But yeah, we collected other stuff like Mega Drive. I bought a Sinclair ZX Spectrum, a faulty one. I yeah, and yeah, I mean, I will mention more about that at another point. Yeah, but let's just say the seller that I bought it off on eBay was a right cunt. Need I say more? But yeah, then of course I bought a Commodore 64. The first one I bought stopped working after a week, so of course then I bought another one, which is the Terminator 2 pack. I know I I bought that, rebought it last year. But yeah, I love the Commodore 64. I didn't buy it necessarily for the games, but because the music on it, music on the Commodore 64 is just incredible. What other consoles did I buy? I bought a Dreamcast because I missed out one as a kid. Well, even though I played on one at a youth club and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I bought the Dreamcast, had it for about 2 years, loved it. But the problem with the Dreamcast was, I don't know, the prices for it were starting to go up and up and up. And I wanted to buy more games for it, but financially I wasn't in a good. Financially, I was a bit worried, and I realized that some of the games were starting to own me rather than me owning them. And like, this again our hand. But the biggest one for me, the one that almost tipped me over the edge, was the Xbox 360. And I'll tell you that, I mean, I got my 360 as a birthday present, yeah, when I was 16 in 2010. So I got it for my 16th birthday. Yeah, because I know a lot of my friends at school had the 360. A few had PS3s, but I opted to go for a 360. Yeah, it was the Elite one. Yeah, the black 360 Elite, 120 gigabytes. Yeah, so we bought. So I got one of them, and yeah, and let's just say, there's the console where, even though I loved it, it got to a point where after like 2 or 3 years of owning it, I was realizing that I was just getting games for it for the sake of it. I was starting to enjoy the 360 less and less. Then of course I ended up getting the PS3. Same problem. I bought games that I didn't really play. Though the games I did play, I thoroughly enjoyed, like Grand Theft Auto 5, of course. But then I'm not as interested in GTA 5 now as perhaps I was then. Yeah, other games. I mean, Sonic Generations was good. The 2013 Tomb Raider, Rat, Ratchet and Clank, Tools of Destruction. I was trying to think which Ratchet and Clank game it was. Yeah, Tools of Destruction, Cracking Time, which I did like, but I don't know. It was that generation where I don't know. I started to lose interest in like the modern stuff slowly, and that was when I decided, you know what, I've realized that I should just stick to the stuff I know and love best. And that's what I've done. That was until I got an Xbox One. Actually, no, that was until I got a PS4 in 2015 or 16, I think it was. I think it was 2016. I got my PS4. And of course, I know I hardly played on it, so I gave it to my brother for his nephew and niece to play on, and they've been happy with it, so I don't blame him at all. Then, of course, I bought an Xbox One, which I did enjoy for a while, of course, for a while. But then I don't know, just like that, it got to the point where the more I was playing modern games, the more and more I was finding myself distancing myself away from it. And I'm like, you know what? My heart just isn't with modern games anymore. And I thought, you know what? I'm done with modern games. I really am. Unless something comes out and surprises me, I can't see myself getting another brand new game console. So I'll just stick to the ones I know and love best, such as like the PS1, Mega Drive, SNES. Because I can't believe I didn't have a Super Nintendo as a kid. Because I'll tell you what, absolutely fantastic console. But yeah, I've bought all other systems which I do like. I mean, the GameCube's one of them. But I don't know, there's just some systems I don't have as much of a connection with compared to some of the others. I have more of a connection with the Commodore 64 than I do with the Xbox One. Even though I've not bought any games for it for a while, and I will have to replace the cassette deck on it. Yeah, yeah, the data set because I tried fixing it, but nah, it I'm gonna have to replace that at some point. So anyway, so that was my video game history there. So I'll quickly, briefly run through it. So yeah, 1997 to 99 was like my early years, like NES and Mega Drive. Then 1989 to like mid 2000s was like the PS1, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. Mid 2000s was Xbox and PS2. Uh, early to mid 2010s were the Xbox 360 and PS3, and then 2015 to I don't know 2019 was like my PS4 and Xbox One days, and then anything in between, which I'll probably say from like the mid 2000s to whenever. Stupidly, I was buying games for the sake of it. But you know what? We all do things that we enjoy it, but also regret doing at the same time. It happens to the best of us when you realize that even though you love certain things, there are quite a few items that you there are quite a few items that you have to say goodbye to. It's not easy, but when you realize that certain things are owning you more than you owning them, it becomes a problem. And certain things do take a hit, like your finances. But but thanks to people on YouTube, while some have led me down to the wrong path, quite a few have led me down to a right. They've changed my some of these people would end up changing my habits for the better, and I thank them for doing so. So anyway, I think that is the end of this video. I thought I would do something a bit different compared to usual, because I want to show people that there's more to my channel than just the usual vlogs. I know I've been mostly doing the vlogs for a while, and I've enjoyed doing them. And although I've promised to upload other content besides them, unfortunately I've not lived up to that. And obviously I want to try my best. I feel absolutely dreadful that I can't always live up to the expectations of myself. I mean, I'm not here to do videos to please people. I just want to do videos that I know I will enjoy, but I also understand that other people have similar opinions and hobbies as I do. So until then, I think I will end this video. I hope you all have a good day, and I will see you very soon. Take care.